just these three types of salt here. So we have regular table salt. And I just wanted to just, we talk about teaspoons of salt, grams of salt, and sodium. So salt does not equal sodium, okay? So table salt, you have 1/4 of a teaspoon, that's the same as 1.5 grams of salt, that's just the weight. But in a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt, there's 590 milligrams of sodium. So just focus on the sodium part. Sea salt, it has 470 milligrams of sodium. I think it's just because they're bigger crystals. And then you have pink Himalayan salt. There's 420 milligrams of sodium in that as well. But basically, if you think about it, I'll skip that part. So just looking at these different types of salt as well. Look at the table salt versus the Himalayan salt. Can you see the difference in that already? And with the benefits of having table salt versus Himalayan salt? There's more calcium in the Himalayan salt, there's more potassium in the Himalayan salt, there's more magnesium, there's more iron, and there's less sodium. So I think the Himalayan salt is healthier for you. Table salt, they say they bleach it, and it's a lot processed, so you don't get that much minerals as well. Does anybody know what's the recommended daily allowance of sodium we should have every day? How many milligrams of sodium? How much? 500? No, more than that. No? Actually, they say 2,400 milligrams of sodium. Of sodium, okay? Not salt. This is just the sodium. So basically, how much does our body need of sodium every day? Because I didn't know this either. Anybody even take a guess? No? Actually, it's 500 only. Only 500 milligrams of sodium that we need. So if you think about it, a teaspoon of salt is equivalent to 6 grams of salt. A teaspoon of salt is equivalent to 6 grams of salt. So 1 teaspoon of salt contains 2,400 milligrams of sodium. So that's how much sodium, that's the recommended daily allowance that the US says we should have. But our bodies only need 500. Do you know what the average is of the Americans eat of sodium? Almost, 4,000 or 5,000 of sodium. And so that's roughly like 10 grams of salt. That's almost like, what is it? A teaspoon and a half or something like that. So this is important here. So these population studies show that excessive dietary salt is the single most important risk factor for the development of hypertension with increasing age. So what that means is, as we get older, our risk for hypertension increases even though we're eating the same amount of salt. So say, for instance, I eat 3 grams of salt every day when I was 20 years old. Now I'm 49, I have a risk of high blood pressure. This is a hard slide to see, but basically it's saying the same thing. On the bottom, this is your age. On the left side is your systolic blood pressure. Pointer. But basically it's saying for people who eat the same amount of salt, when they go from like 20 years of age going to 40 to 60, the risk of blood pressure, of hypertension increases. Where does most of our salt come from when we, in our diet? Anybody know? The majority of salt that we eat. Chips, okay, processed food? Yeah, so 75% comes from processed foods and meals in restaurants that we consume away from home. 15 to 25% comes from the salt shaker, and only about 10% actually comes naturally from the food. So the reason why this was important to me is because my blood pressure was elevated. My blood pressure usually was running like 110/70. And then I would check my blood pressure in December. I noticed it was like 134/81. I was like, oh. And then I checked it again in March. It was 129/85. In April, it was 125/131/85/91. So I was getting worried about this, like, what's going on? And providential that we were at this, what do you call it? This free mega clinic in Indianapolis that we were volunteering at. Does anybody know Dr. DeRose? David DeRose? Yeah, a few. So I met him there. I knew him from before. And he has this website called timelesshealinginsights.org. And he had this, it's a free, what do you call it? This free 30 days to better health, basically to treat diabetes and high blood pressure naturally. And all it is that you're watching a video like 5 or 6 minutes every day. So I was listening to that, and I'm going to show you a little clip from that. So, you know, different ways that you could do to not only improve your blood pressure, but for diabetes, because it pretty much works hand in hand. And so I got to the part of salt, and I don't know, I forgot what time frame it was, but I want to say maybe it only took like 2 weeks that my blood pressure came back to its normal after watching my salt intake and totally decreasing my salt intake. Has anybody calculated how much salt you eat every day? No? If you can, it's a great eye-opener, very, very good eye-opener. So this is what I did. And this is already after I cut down a lot of my salt. Okay, so in a breakfast, okay, the banana, and it shows how much sodium is in each one. So a banana has 1 milligram, pineapple 2 milligrams, cantaloupe 28 milligrams. We had some homemade chili beans, that was 520. Brown rice, sprouted wheat bread, peanut butter, honey, and then some almonds. So my breakfast was 856 milligrams of sodium, okay? And then the same day for lunch, we had a salad, lettuce, purple cabbage, 0 milligrams of sodium, cucumber, 0. The Italian dressing, just for 2 tablespoons, is 300 milligrams of sodium. We had some red lentils, that was 700 milligrams, that was homemade too. Brown rice, and then a zucchini muffin, and that was 1107 milligrams of sodium. So just for those 2 meals alone, I was already at 1963 milligrams of sodium, not including dinner. And what's the typical largest meal of the day in America? Dinner, right? Dinner is the highest. So I didn't calculate my dinner, but I was already at pretty much, I shouldn't eat any more sodium for the rest of the day, right? And this is when I was starting to eat better. And I'll show you, whatchamacallit, share a little bit more. But so now my blood pressure back to what I'm used to, 100 over 110s over 60 to 70s. So I just wanted to share a clip from this Timeless Healing Insights by Dr. DeRose. And Peter's going to put that up.
But we're getting lots of salt in processed foods and restaurant foods. And it's driving our blood pressure, and it's increasing the risk of diabetic complications. True story. I was speaking in a venue, and someone came up to me. He said, Dr. O, we've read your book. We've read 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. And this particular individual told me, he said, I have dropped my blood pressure, and I was recall the figure, something like 50 bucks. He was off his blood pressure medications. And I said, well, what in the book caused a change in your lifestyle? He said one of the things was the material about sodium. He said he'd been eating out a lot, and he stopped that frequent restaurant food fare, and that, along with exercise, were the two keys to really brought blood pressure down. He said, what about diabetes? If you have diabetes, having higher blood pressure than you need is increasing the risk of diabetic complications. So it really behooves all of us to look seriously at our sodium consumption. Now, remember, in this series, I'm not playing doctor for you, okay? I'm not, by the way, in this video, taking charge of your medical care. And definitely, if you have any questions about the safety of sodium restriction, then you talk with your provider. If you're on a diuretic and you're taking a water pill, you need to be careful that you don't cut back your salt too much. That means if you're taking furosemide or Lasix, you're taking hydrochlorothiazide, you're taking chlorothalonil, you're using common diuretics. You want to talk with your doctor, your healthcare provider, before you just get so excited about choosing low sodium options. But let me come back to the big picture. Because my challenge is we're going to look at ways to decrease your sodium unless there's a reason why you should from a medical standpoint. Here's where I'm going with all this. I'm looking at chapter 5 in our book. It's page 106 if you've got the book. We've got a graphic here from the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world. They looked at what would happen if the average American just decreased his or her salt consumption by about 30%. So the average American today, taking about a teaspoon and a half of salt, if they were to cut that back to a teaspoon, what would happen? I'm looking at the graphic. Coronary heart disease deaths, based on this advanced statistical modeling, they would drop from somewhere around 180,000 a year in the U.S. down to somewhere around 120,000. We're talking about 60,000 lives saved just by cutting back on the salt. Then you look at stroke. Amazing. About 100,000 deaths per year. Cutting that down to somewhere around 60,000 deaths per year. About a 40,000 decrease in lives saved. 40,000 lives saved by simply cutting down on sodium. How do you do it? You simply choose lower sodium foods. That's my challenge today. And let me give you a practical point. We talk about this in the book. I'll just give it very simple. You look at the calories in the food item, and you look at the milligrams of sodium. So if there's 200 calories per serving, you look then and compare the milligrams of sodium in that serving with the number of calories. If it's less than the calories, the milligrams of sodium are less than the number of calories, that is a relatively low sodium choice. So again, 200 calorie food option, it's got 120 milligrams of sodium in it. That's a relatively low sodium choice. If it's 150 calories in a serving, and it's got 300 milligrams of sodium, that's about twice as many milligrams of sodium per calorie. That would be, of course, a higher sodium option. So eat less in restaurants, or if you eat in restaurants, get their ingredient lists and choose low sodium options. Watch those processed foods, watch things in boxes, or in bags, and you are on your way to better blood pressure and better diabetes, at least decreasing risk of complications by following this simple principle. That's day 8. We'll be back with more tomorrow.
So these are the typical type of videos. So very short. You could do this, once a day. So has anybody heard about that? Looking at the total calories and looking at the total milligrams of sodium? Yeah, I didn't hear that before either. But, you know, if you think about it, if we're supposed to have a roughly 2,000 calorie diet every day, and then you just stay under the, you know, then that means that your sodium will be about 2,000 milligrams a day too, right, for the whole day. Let's see. All right. So one thing that opened my eyes was just what I was eating, okay? I like ketchup, I really like ketchup, but I don't know if you can see it, okay. So how much calories does ketchup have? It's 20 calories, right? And if you could see it, it has 170 milligrams of sodium for 1 tablespoon. And to confess, I would, you know, when we'd eat from, you know, potatoes or whatever, I would put half a cup, 1 cup of ketchup, okay? So 1 tablespoon, a cup of ketchup, that's 16 tablespoons, 16 times 70, 170 is what? I don't know, 1,500 milligrams of sodium already? So it's a lot, right? Who likes paste picante sauce? I used to eat that a lot after work. And then eat that with chips, right? So 2 tablespoons has 250 milligrams of sodium. And I'll confess again, I would sometimes eat 2 cups of that with all the chips as after my meal is done, right? It's not even my meal. So that's where a lot of where my salt was coming from. So, and then another thing that opened my eyes was bread. Did you know that bread has so much salt? So this is sourdough bread. Okay, 1 slice of sourdough bread has 200 milligrams of sodium. Just 1 slice. So how much do you usually get? Okay, 2 slices, that's 400 milligrams of sodium already right there. And so look, it has 110 calories, and there's only 200 milligrams of sodium. So this is not a low sodium food, it's a high sodium food. Pretty much all the bread, if you look at the breads, they're high sodium. And so, you know, when we go to restaurants, do we really look at the ingredients? So Olive Garden, okay, this is, you can find this on the internet, you can find their website. Either 2 breadsticks with garlic topping, 416 milligrams, that's per one breadstick, okay? The salad, a serving of salad is 770 milligrams of sodium. Minestrone soup, 810, so one bowl. I used to eat a couple of those, right? Spaghetti is 10 milligrams, and marinara sauce is 960. That's 3,470 milligrams of sodium for 1 meal, right? And that's not even eating appetizer or the dessert. How about Chipotle? How much does Chipotle have? It's about 2,000 milligrams for Chipotle. And what's interesting though, I just found out today, I was looking this up again, Chipotle, they would have their information on their website, how much sodium it has, but it just has the tortilla and the beef, the meat. It doesn't include the beans or the salsa or the guacamole, so, you know, it's kind of deceiving that way. Taco Bell bean burrito has 1,000 milligrams, and In-N-Out Double has 1,440. Okay, that's just by itself. So you can calculate, see how much sodium we're eating. So what are ways we can decrease our sodium in our diet? Just like Dr. DeRose said. So, you know, trying to avoid eating out at restaurants. You can make healthier choices. Keep the sauces and the dressings on the side instead of having it all mixed together, so you could eat, use less of it. What I'm doing now is actually diluting our sauces. You know, you get the spaghetti sauce. There's a lot of sodium in store-bought spaghetti sauce, but all you need to do is just, put some water or put some lemon juice or something just to dilute it, and it still tastes good. You don't need all that sodium. And basically, really, it's just to cook your own meals, right? Because when you cook your own meals, you could control how much salt is in there. One thing I just wanted to encourage you is that it only takes 10 days to change your taste buds. Okay, sometimes we're like, oh no, I can't change the way I eat. I have to eat this way. But remember in Daniel 1, 8-15, where Daniel and his 3 friends, they, you know, they were able to just eat the diet that they wanted for 10 days, and they saw how much better they were than the rest of the people. So that's an encouragement. You know, God made our taste buds so that we could change our taste buds and stuff. So I just wanted to share the sodium content in unprocessed foods. Look at oatmeal, 0. An apple, 2 milligrams. And do we really need to put anything on apples? No, you eat it by itself, right? Bananas, watermelon, almonds, beet greens. If you notice, beet greens and celery actually have a higher content of sodium. So that's why they make these vegetable broths and things like that, because it has more sodium in it. Broccoli only has 23 milligrams. Carrots, brown rice, beans, lentils. And I just wanted to show a little bit of like egg and chicken and beef. It's not that high of sodium. So just to emphasize this, you know, the processed foods are really what's the processed foods in the restaurant food. And somebody actually just said, you know, just eat more food that don't have food labels on it, right? Is there a food label on a carrot? No, right? Is there a food label on watermelons to tell you the nutritional content? None of that, right? So remember, when we eat more salt, we retain our water, and so it just causes more resistance, and it actually causes the arteries to be more sensitive to constricting hormones. So limit your salt intake. Most Americans eat about 4,000 milligrams of sodium a day. And they found in countries where people eat less than 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day, hypertension is rare. And what's actually good is that the American Heart Association, they made a recommendation of you should get 1,500 milligrams a day of sodium, which is actually a good recommendation. You also want to maintain your ideal body weight. People who are overweight, they're more sensitive to chemicals that constrict their arteries, and less sensitive ones to that open them up. Extra fat cells produce chemicals that promote inflammation. You have inflammation, you have more resistance. I know we don't want to hear this, but oxidized cholesterol, like in cheese and ice cream and stuff, it just causes inflammation and hardening of the arteries too. We talked about avoiding caffeine and limiting sugar, corn syrup, soft drinks. You want to eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I know it's hard sometimes, right? But you know, that's the best food that God created. Green leafy vegetables contain magnesium, and that prevents vasospasm in blood vessels. So other recommendations: exercise daily, adopt a plant-based diet that's high in fiber and antioxidants. We want to reduce our stress levels. I just read a study here too. I think this is back in early 2000s. They did a study on these nuns living in a monastery in Italy, and they compared to the same people who lived in the same area, but they lived outside the monastery. So they had the same amount of salt intake. But after some time, they found the people who were living outside of the monastery, who were exposed to the daily stresses of life, had like a 30-point increase in their blood pressure, in their systolic blood pressure. So they concluded that the people who lived in the monastery, the nuns, because they were, you know, praying, meditating, not having all that stress, their blood pressures remain lower. So stress is a huge factor in our blood pressure. Temperate eating resulting in weight control. We want to eat a high potassium diet, except people with kidney disease, so you have to be careful with that. And I just wanted to share this. Back in 2000 BC, someone said this, eat this herb. I don't know if anybody's seen this. In the year 1000, it says, that herb is heathen, say this prayer. And then 1850, it says, that prayer is superstition, drink this potion. 1940, they said, that potion is snake oil, swallow this pill. 1985, it says, that pill is ineffective, take this antibiotic. And then 2000 says that antibiotic is artificial, eat this herb. Basically, we're going back, go back to plant-based, right? Go back to God's natural way to heal disease, right? Let food be thy medicine, and let medicine be thy food. And just to just to end in this note, in Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." That's the key for stress, right? So, and that's all I have. Any questions? So my challenge to you then is to really look how much sodium you're eating, even just like one meal. Then that could give you a little gauge on see how much sodium you're eating every day. And if you want to go look into that, timelesshealinginsights.org. It's a free seminar to go to listen to that. It's basically a part of he got that from his book. He brought a book and he wrote a book with some other people, and he made it into videos for people to go through. Yes, sir?
What is Celtic salt?
What is Celtic salt? It's the type of sea salt. I'm not sure exactly where, somewhere in Europe or Asia, I think, if somebody knows. Yeah, so it's a type of sea salt too. Mm-hmm. It is, right. It's less processed, right. Yeah. Yes, Candice?
Can you comment on salt alternatives like mushroom seasoning?
Sure.
Is that healthier?
I don't know specifically that's healthier. You just have to look at the sodium content. I know that, I think Carol will talk about that, if you've heard of Bragg's aminos, that's like an alternative to soy sauce. That's healthier too. But you just have to also, calculate how much you're eating and stuff. You just can't, put a lot of it. So I think it is, yeah, sometimes you have to be careful. We don't even know exactly what the ingredients are, and, they don't tell you and whatnot, especially in the restaurants. But yeah, I think that it's a healthier alternative. Mm-hmm. And then once you're eating, foods that are less salty, and you go to a restaurant and oh wow, this is really salty, you could tell. So they've also said that for people who are who come from families that have high blood pressure, their perception of salt is actually decreased. So they actually put more salt. It's kind of interesting. So, yes.
In drinking more water counteract the effect of the sodium content in your body?
Oh yes, definitely, yes. And that's one thing you could also do. I understand it's hard to, there's an event or something like that, everyone's going to go to a restaurant, you can't just avoid not going, but you could, okay, we're going to have this for lunch, so maybe for breakfast I'm going to make sure I eat less salty food for breakfast, so my total intake of salt for the day doesn't go too high. So, did you have a question in the back? No? Oh, okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, I guess we could go over to the fellowship hall for the cooking demonstration. All right, thank you.
also this week. You know, if I say yes, and then if I'm not here, will there be a backup?
I will look time.
Well, I think that we're going to be
Because
gone.
we have to create a program.
I know. Who's doing, who's speaking?
That's what Gomez said.
Who's doing all of these? Oh, okay, you're just
I'll
trying
be
to
the
find.
presiding elder.
Oh, you're the presiding elder? Okay, I think so. Yeah,
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
I think he's kind of in yeah. No, that's fine. I'll do it.
Okay. Okay, I'll put it there.
Okay.
Let's go there.
Oh, wow. How are you? Good to see you. Hi. You talked to what? Oh, I can't even see it. So, what is it? That's fine.
Seawater has about 92 minerals in it, and our blood is like seawater, basically, because it has all the minerals. And Himalayan, like you said, has what, 82 to 84 minerals. So that's pretty close to what our blood needs, or to what we need. Okay, I'll wait a few more minutes.
Can you all hear? Okay? All right. Well, let's just get started. We can visit. Today, I am going to be making 3 different things, mainly sauces. We're doing a peanut sauce, and I have a spring roll that you can sample with the peanut sauce. And for those who are allergic to peanuts, I tried a little tahini sauce. We did the same thing, but we used tahini instead of peanuts. So that's our first recipe. The second recipe is a cashew cream. And you could use this, I don't know, you could use it on anything. I like to put it on baked potatoes, or if I have a bowl of rice with vegetables, you could use it as a dressing. Just pour it on anything, slosh it with your vegetables, eat it. So we're gonna make a basic cashew cream sauce. And our sample, we will also have, I did a ginger sriracha version of the cashew cream sauce. And finally, I'm going to show you how to do chia seed pudding. So let us start with the peanut sauce. Now this, on your handout, when I make this, I just kind of throw things in a bowl. I don't measure it out, but so I had to kind of guess, and that's how it came out on the paper. But once you're done making the sauce, according to the recipe, just taste it a little bit. If you want a little saltier, if you want a little sweeter, or a little more tart or acidic, you just add either the lemon or peanut butter or the coconut milk. You just kind of add little by little to see till you get a taste that you like. So the first thing is 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. Tablespoons. Okay, so measure that out, and it's really easy. Usually I'll just I don't even use a measuring spoon, I'll just dump it into the bowl. So that's about 1. Here's 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. And three. Okay. And I like peanut butter. It has a lot of folate, a lot of protein. Okay, let's see. Let's put this down here. Okay, so we did 3 tablespoons of peanut butter and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. So let's pour that out. And you could use honey, you could use agave nectar, you could use Flora crystals, whichever sweetener of choice is yours, or whatever you have on hand. I suppose you could use sugar, but I try and stay away from regular white sugar. I like other alternatives that have at least some kind of mineral content to it. Okay, so we did the maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, and instead of soy sauce, I'm using Bragg. If you are not familiar with this, it's a soy sauce substitute. I believe it has less sodium than soy sauce. Yeah. So I am using Bragg liquid aminos, and about 1 teaspoon. Now when I was making this, I ended up adding a little bit more, so it's just a little bit more than a teaspoon. Okay. Then we're adding 1/3 cup of coconut milk. And this is just the coconut milk in the can, not the coconut milk that you find in the refrigerated section that you use for cereal or things like that. You want the canned coconut milk that's higher in fat. This one has 14 grams of fat in it. So let's open this up. And this coconut milk, I believe you can find in the Asian food stores, or they've got good ones in the Asian aisle at Walmart or any grocery store. So pop in 1/3 cup. Okay, so this is 1/3 cup coconut milk. And then lime. So I have some lime here, and I just, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, I just go ahead and squeeze. Okay. And then you get your whisk it together till it's well combined and nice and smooth and not clumpy. And there's your peanut sauce. So it comes together quick. And that's that. Yes, are there any questions for this one? No? Okay. So let's move on to our next recipe. I am going to need, can you wash? Thank you. Okay. Our next recipe is cashew cream sauce. So I soaked some cashews overnight in some purified water. What you could do if you want to soak your cashews really fast and you don't have time to do it overnight, boil some water and put it in boiling water for about 15 minutes, and that should do just fine. So let's drain this out. Uh-oh. So I have raw cashews here. Okay, and then 1/2 to 3/4 cup water. I was making this last night and I found that 3/4 cup of water works well for me. So we'll measure this out. And if you like it saucy, like you could squeeze it out of a bottle, then you probably need a little more water. Because if you put this in the refrigerator, it tends to solidify a little bit more, and it's something you'll have to spoon out instead of pour out. Okay, so that was 3/4 cup of water. 2 cloves of garlic, roughly chopped. So I have that right here. Squeaking. Okay, so we got the garlic. 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. I have Himalayan salt here. And half a teaspoon. And I found for me, I had to put just a little bit more after, like maybe just a little less than a quarter, so I'm going to put that in. And black pepper. Just a little bit. And nutritional yeast. Don't know if you've used this before. It kind of gives your food an umami or cheesy flavor. So it calls for 2 tablespoons. Okay, so we'll do 1. 2 tablespoons of this. Okay, there we go. And 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I've got lemon right here. Here we go. Okay. Half a lemon is about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, so I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze. And after you blend it all up and it's smooth, if you want more of that tangy tartness, acidic flavor to it, then you could add more. Okay. And half a teaspoon of onion powder. There we go. Onion powder. Okay. Now this comes together fairly quickly. And what I like to do is make some of this in the, well, I haven't made it recently, but if you make it, just stick it in the fridge, it'll last you all week long. Use it as a dressing, use it as a topping for anything you'd like to eat with this. And then on your blender, you just let it go till it's nice and smooth. And that's that. You just pour it out. Well, usually what I'll do now is taste it to see what it needs. Let's see. You know what? We'll leave it and see how it turns out. Spatula. And sometimes I will use this instead of mayonnaise, which is a better alternative because you're not eating the oil that mayonnaise is made out of. This is actually rich in protein and other minerals because you're using cashews. So you could use this as a mayo alternative. But this is a good cream sauce to experiment with because you could add any flavor to it. You could add more garlic and make it a garlic sauce. I know my sister-in-law, she used this, she put more garlic and she took her spaghetti sauce and decided to make creamy marinara. So she dumped a bunch of cream sauce, like maybe half to a cup of cashew cream sauce in her marinara, and it was a nice pink sauce. Or you could do a creamy pesto, or, it's really versatile. Okay, so that's that. Now, the next one. So any questions about the cashew cream sauce? Nope? Simple. Okay. Next thing we're going to make is the chia seed pudding. Now, I know chia seeds are high in some vitamin or mineral. I forget which one. Does anybody, I know somebody out there knows. Chia seeds. It's high in, is it magnesium? Is it magnesia? I know it's like a high, I know this is like a superfood. It's ALA? Oh, okay. It's good for your brain. ALA is that brain food? Okay. One of the things that's high in here, ALA. It's high in omega-3 and other nutrients. So what I'm doing now, you're gonna have to boil some water. So while I'm waiting for this to boil, I'll take the half cup of chia seeds and put it in here. And the reason we use boiling water is to quicken the swelling of the seeds. I've tried this in cold milk before, and it takes forever. It takes a long time for these seeds to swell up. So once I learned about this method of swelling the seeds, I'm all for this way. So let me put this here. So I've got my half cup of chia seeds in the bowl. I think we'll just use the rest of this coconut milk. Now, if you prefer not to use coconut milk, you can use any other kind of milk you want. But I like the coconutty flavor, so I use the coconut milk. Let's see. So we'll put the water. Now I'm just gonna, I know we have to add vanilla, so I'm gonna add the vanilla to the coconut milk, so that'll save us another step. I believe this recipe is in the last page. Yep. There we go. Teaspoon vanilla extract. Teaspoon here somewhere. So I'll just put this in my coconut milk because it's going to all end up in the same bowl while we're waiting for that to heat up. And 1/3 cup of maple syrup, or you could use agave nectar, or you could use honey, or cane crystals, whatever sweetener you would like to use. But this time I'm using maple syrup, and I think I'm going to end up not using a whole can because we use some for the peanut sauce, but I think it'll be okay. So I'm just going to add my maple syrup to this can of coconut milk. Sometimes I do a little bit less sweetener. Now the sample that I have for you today is chia seed pudding, but I put a variation on it, which is there's a Filipino fruit salad. It's called buko salad, which is young coconut shreds. It has coconut gel, which we call nata de coco, put some of that in it. And another thing, I think this is sugar palm fruit. We call it kaong. And I put that in a strainer together with fruit cocktail, and I drained it. I kind of rinsed it out too with water because this stuff just really has a lot of sugar. So I didn't want it to be so sweet. Okay, here we go. This is boiling. So that's what your sample will be today. And if this, you could also try this, but maybe a little warm. So we want 1.5 cups of hot water. Okay, so there's, and the trick to this is pour and whisk at the same time. So as you whisk it, it will get, right now it just looks like I'm mixing water, but as it starts to thicken and swell up, it'll get stiffer in the bowl. And then you could add. Yeah, it takes forever if it's in cold. See, these are already swelling up really nice. It's already thick. So now we could just add our coconut milk, vanilla, and sweetener and mix it together. And chia seed food, it's a nice something to eat. You could eat this for breakfast, stick some granola on top, stick some fresh fruit in there, and eat it as part of your breakfast. You could just make some for the week in a big tub. It doesn't take long at all. So then this will just sit here and cool and get thicker. Right now it's a little watery, but the seeds will continue to swell and will become thicker, and you'll have a nice pudding. Get some of this out of here. Okay, so that's it for the chia seed pudding. It's simple. So I like easy, I like simple. Questions? Anything? If not, we have all our samples are going to be there. We're going to do this potluck style. So the first thing you'll have, well, let's do all one. There's a spring roll. It's all wrapped in wax paper, so take the wax paper off first. It's not edible. Spring roll, and then you have your peanut sauce, and in the bigger container, in the smaller container next to it, is the tahini, if you want to try that too. And then next we have just cut up cucumber and some carrots, and I have the ginger sriracha, which is a little bit spicy. Next to it you could dip, and we have crackers, you could dip in it and try it, and then I'll take out the chia seed pudding, and then you could try that too. And we have bowls, yes. Spring roll has lettuce, I think I put romaine, or red leaf lettuce, is a lettuce, and then tofu that was seasoned with some mushroom seasoning and garlic powder, and I fried that up, and then some cucumber, and some carrot shreds, some cilantro, and a little bit of Thai basil. Wrapped it all up. And if you're interested in wanting to make it yourself, the wrapper that I used, these are the tapioca sheets. You can find this at the Asian store. I tried looking here in town to see if they had it, maybe it cost less. They don't have it. So I had to go all the way to Visalia, to RN to get these. But the Asian stores usually have it. Even Asian Variety in Lemoore doesn't have it. So, okay. Okay, if there's any peanut allergies, just stay away from the peanut sauce. Are there any peanut allergies? Anyone allergic to peanuts? No? Okay, we're good. All right. You could do that. Okay, well, why don't we say a blessing before we try our food? Okay, let's all bow our heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can all come together. We ask that you please bless this food, let it nourish and strengthen our bodies, and please help it to taste good. In Jesus' name, amen.